Hello guys, so today I'm going to redo part 1 of my sliding doors tutorial, and the only reason why I'm doing this is because last time I did it my mic went bad and you could barely hear what I was saying that I had to put captions in it. So I'm going to redo it because why not? In fact, I'm pretty sure there might be a comment that's saying that I should redo it because my mic went bad. I don't know, but I haven't checked the comments, but there might be, but I don't think there are any comments, but either way I'm just going to redo it because why not? And also because my mic went bad. And we are going to be using the same train as last time, which is Tyler's R40M. Which is this. So yeah, let's get started. And no, I'm not going to be redoing part 2 because it's literally the same thing. So I'm just going to redo what I did in part 1, hoping that my mic does not go bad while making the video. But anyways, let's get started. Oh, and by the way, part 2 will be in the description because I've already done part 2, and for part 2 my mic didn't go bad, but for part 1 my mic did go bad. So yeah, that's why I'm redoing it. But without further ado, let's get started. So, we have a train here that we want to work on, and we are going to retrofit the current doors that are on there. So we have a train, and we're going to do doors, and we also need a GUI, which I'm going to grab. And now at the moment my mic went bad, you saw me inserting an R160 just to get the GUI and the train script as well. So I'm gonna grab these real quick. Train script. We're gonna delete this. We don't need it anymore. Oh, and by the way, here's the interior again, for those who forgot. Which I'm pretty sure you shouldn't forget because that was one of my most recent uploads. And I finally figured out what the red text is, or at least I think. Do not steal credit. So yeah, that's what the red text says. But we're not gonna steal credit. So we're gonna put these in here. But before we do that, I gotta edit the GUI first. Which, wrong stuff. Start a GUI. Alright, here's the GUI. I'm gonna edit. Title. Oh. Alright, now the train has its proper credits, so now we can just put it into the train. Select. Alright, now let's get started. So what you will need is a part. Like, it could be like, yeah, we just insert a part here. That's what it looks like. Make it as big as you want, make it as small as you want. I don't care how big or small you make it, but as long as it works, then it works. For me, I'm just going to make it 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. And I'm just going to work with a cube in this case. You could work with like a block, yeah, like a block that's not a cube, but it should be like a block. We're not going to be working with cylinders, corner wedges, or spheres. We're only going to be working with blocks. So we have that. I'm just going to set it aside. And now we just need to make the doors. So we're going to grab the doors, which is door 1. Make sure you grab everything in the doors, including the stickers and the glass. We're going to group these, cut, and then we're going to paste that original location. And yes, it's important that the doors should be in the original location when you put them back, which you'll see why in a second. Now for this one, now we can start working on doors. Like, I like to move the doors like out a little bit and then move it out as I like separate the parts, and then when I union, I like to move it back in, just because it makes things easier for me. So I'm gonna move it out. So now it's 5 studs out. Doing this one, doors 1. I'm gonna separate it, and we're gonna take these out as well. Actually, let's move the whole thing out, just because I like where the pivot positions at. Moving this out. And now and this is what I like doing, which is like that. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but if you see what I'm doing, then that's that. I don't know how to explain it. Oh, before we move on, there's a few ways you can make the doors. What I see some people doing is, I'm gonna grab this door for a second. Actually, I want to insert another one before we move on, because I did forget to mention something. So hold on, I want to grab another R40M. And no, I'm just gonna grab one of the doors. Alright. Okay, what I see some people doing is they will like grab a part, and then they will put it in position with the doors like this. Like this, and then making this a negative part. Should make that as well. And then selecting these two, and then making a union out of it. And you get half of it. But what they don't know is that they need to make it the same color as this door rubber part right there. Because look, you see that's white, medium stone gray. So you do have to change the colors. Which I'll make this black. Like, if you make this black, oh wait, and then you get this. But that's not how I like to do it. I like to do it differently. Like, I just work backwards, and then, yeah. Like, you see what I'm doing here. Now we're gonna go back to what we were doing. So, like, I can't explain what I'm doing without even actually doing it, but because, you know, I'm not that good at explaining things. So we'll work on this one later, because for now we're gonna move this studs out. And you'll see why I am moving the doors out in a second. Just need to get this door. Like, and the reason why I don't drag the doors out is because I want to keep it in like the same Y position. I just kind of like to leave it floating like this until the doors are done, and so I could put it back in the train without having to move it up and down. But yeah, that's just easier for me. So now we have separated all the parts. Now you have all these parts here, and you can't just select all the parts by holding control while clicking this. You have to actually select the correct parts, like the parts you want to put together, like the union. Like in this case, we're going to select this. Yeah, basically select all the parts while holding Alt. And then we can make this a union. And after that, you can select the rest of the parts and do the same thing. And now we have two separate door parts without a window. And yeah, you can see it. You can see like they're separate door parts now. So that's done. Now we can move this back 5 studs. And now you can see why I like to do it that way. I'm gonna put this in. I'm gonna put this out. Move it out. And at the same time, we can also work on this part as well. I'd say make them the same color as, yeah, institutional white smooth plastic. Oh, and you also might want to make them the same material as well. Which, is this the same material? Yep, it's the same material. And we're going to make these the color we want. Use part color, material, smooth plastic. Now we can move these in. Oh, I gotta ungroup it first. And now we can select all these parts. Now we have this. Oh, and when ungrouping, and when you're doing this process inside model, you should have 2 unions left. Now we can do the same thing to this one. Now let's move this back. And finally we have our 2 door parts done. Oh wait, I gotta make these plastic again. Smooth plastic, actually. That's better. Anyways, now with that done, we can move it back and we can move it back. And now that's the first part done. If you find it faster to use a negative part, go for it, but there might be some inaccuracies if you but do however you want, but as long as you get working doors in the end, then good. But like I was saying, like we now have 2 separate door parts. Like we can move it apart, and that's what it looks like. Now we have to resize the glass. What I like to do is I like to duplicate the glass first, and then resize it until it's just like, I can't explain that with words. I can only explain it when I'm, but if you see what I'm doing, you'll get it. And now we have this. Gotta ungroup this first. And now we have our doors. And no, I am not going to publish this because I already have one published called Sliding Doors Tutorial. Link for it is in the description. Reason why I'm not going to save this one is because I already did it. I don't want to redo it. And like I said, I'm not redoing part 2 because the mic didn't go bad. I'm just only redoing part 1 because my mic went bad. But yeah, let's keep going. Now we want to select all your parts. And then we want to group it. So now we have 2 separate door parts. We have everything now. And now you see that part I mentioned? This is when we can use it. So we're gonna get the position of it. Copy and paste, like that way I don't have to drag it and make sure it's perfectly centered. Like if I do this, like if you set the position like this, then you'll be able to get it perfectly. And now for this, you want to turn on the collisions, which I'm going to use B-Tools for. Like if you don't have the B-Tools plugin, then well, you don't have to do this with the B-Tools plugin. I'm only using the B-Tools plugin, that way I can do it faster. Let's turn the collisions on. And I'm gonna collisions on. Oh, and by the way, the numbers I get for the current position might be different from last time. So if I get a different number, then you should probably not use these numbers so much. If I get a different number, then you shouldn't remember it for like part 2. Sorry, I can't talk. Anyways, we now have our parts. One thing I did forget to mention in part 1, like I can't remember if I did or didn't mention this, but make sure the collisions for the doors are off. Which I'm going to use B-Tools again to do that. And also make sure these two parts are anchored. And that's just for testing it. And now what I like to do is I like to move the doors into the train. So let's move that. 5 studs. So we're going to move that into the train. What I like to do is count by 1 stud every time. 1, 2, 3. 3 is too much. It's 2. 2.5. So that's 2.5 studs I counted. Oh, and it's important to keep count of how many studs you move it, because that's how much you want to move the motors out. So it's 2.5. 2.75, that's too much. 2.7. 2.7 is too much. Now when I do it, I like to have the black part exposed when the doors are fully open. It's 2.5 right now. 2.6 will work. Yeah. Yeah, 2.6 studs will work. And as you saw in part 1, I lost track of count. I lost track of how many studs I moved it. And it's important that you keep track, because like I said, that's how much, the number of studs you move the door is how much you want to move the motor out. Just to confirm, I'm just going to do this. 2.6 studs. Yeah, that'll work. Alright, now that's when we get to this part. You want to move the motor out, the number of studs you counted, which in my case is 2.6 studs. Once you have that, next I like to set this to 1 before moving on. Create a prismatic constraint. We're going to do it to both motors. And also, don't worry about getting it perfect, because you just need to make it. Don't worry about it until you actually make both of them. Oh, and make sure you turn on constraint details by pressing Alt D. Like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. So now we have constraint details on. Now we want to make sure both attachments are at the same height, and depending on how you look at it, so left would be the left and right. So alright, so left and right would be the. Okay, so Okay, so the camera facing front and back, moving it left and right, changes the x-axis. Camera facing left or right, that changes the z. Now y we should already know because moving it up and down changes the y. Which that number didn't change yet. There we go. In my case, since my camera is facing along the z-axis, then yeah, like, and the line shown is, and that line shown right there, that green line, you see it, is along the x-axis. Make sure that well, in your case, it might be different because when I inserted this train, it's the length of the train car is actually along the x-axis here. Which, what if we like show the grid? No. Wireframe rendering? No. Nah. No, that's not it. You select the view. I know, like, I haven't even messed around with I haven't even messed around with these settings in a while, so I can't remember, like, yeah. Let's see. No. Just bear with me, we'll be back soon, like. It's not the grid. It's not grid material. View selector. Whatever, but yeah, you see that the first attachment we made, which in this case is attachment 0. Make sure you change the world C-frame position, not the C-frame position here. So in my case, Y is 8.659, which we're going to do for these two. And Z is 10.879 in my case. So that's done now. Wait, let's see if I remember what it is. Does this show grid? Actually, just remember it like this. Like, just inserting a part here. Like, in this case, the blue arrows are for changing the Z. The red arrow is for changing the X, and the green arrow is for changing the Y. For this case, it is. But if I inserted a different model, like a model that's rotating that's facing a different direction, like, no. Let's insert one. Yeah, before we get to that, I want to insert a random. I want to find a train that is facing. Yeah, maybe the MT7A. Yeah, like the blue arrows are for changing the. Yeah, I was right. That blue arrows are for changing the Z position. So yeah, if you don't know what position you need to change, just look at it and then look at the arrows. The blue ones are for Z, red ones for X, green ones are for Y. Anyways, let's keep going. So now you want to select both your prismatic constraints you made. Now you want to set the actuator type to servo. Linear response you can leave. Servo max force you can either leave it or change it, but I'm just going to set it to infinite. Oh, and to set it to infinite, all you got to do is just select that and then spam a bunch of 9s. And now it's at infinite. But this is what it will end up looking like. Yeah. Now we're going to change the speed to 2 and then leave this target position to 0. This part is optional. You can have limits enabled if you want. I forgot to mention that in the first part, but if you want limits enabled, you go ahead. What limits does is that because let's say your servo max force isn't that strong and your train crashes. If you don't have limits enabled, the doors will go flying out of the train. But if you have limits enabled, the doors won't fly out of the train. But obviously, you also, at the same time, don't want the servo max force to be low. But if you want limits enabled, go ahead. But when I have limits enabled, what I like to do is I like to have the upper limit set to the same position as the current position for the prismatic constraint. But we'll get to that later. And like I said, make sure both the parts are anchored, because we're about to play it. We're gonna run it. You can either use the drop down menu under the play button and then click run, or press F8. So now is running. Oh right, I forgot to mention. Make sure that all the parts are welded. To do this, you want to grab a weld script. You can grab the weld script that's already in the train, and then you can paste it into both of those. Now let's test it. Wait, what? Wait, did I not paste it? Hold on. Oh wait. There we go. And if you see the doors move to the motors, then you know it works. And as you can see, at the same time, none of the parts fell out of the doors. So now we know it's welded. Now next thing you want to do is you want to change a bunch of stuff too. Now select your prismatic constraints. Look at the one for the current position. In my case, it's 2.599. And you want to set the target position to that, because that's what keeps it closed. Oops. There we go. Now sometimes you might get a different current position, but in my case the target position is the same. In part 1 when I did this, both the target positions were different, so I had to set them differently. But I'm doing this now and I have the target position the same. So we're going to set that to 2, because that way when we run it, the doors stay closed. And now let's get to the limits part, which I'm just gonna run it. Yeah, my prismatic constraints are in the motors. So let's say you want to set it to like a position. I'm gonna copy this. Like I can see it passes the motors. Now I'm gonna show you where limits come into play. Like we have limits enabled, right? And now if we try to make it go past it, I'm gonna disable this first. So let's say we have it -2. If we turn on limits, then it prevents it from going any further. Without limits, with limits. And this is useful if you don't want the doors flying out of the train. But sometimes, like if you don't want the if you don't want the doors to move out of position at all, like let's say you bump the train, but then you don't want it to do this where it bumps that way. Like you have limits enabled. Which, oh wait, I did forget to show you that part. Why did I stop it? Anyways, as I was saying, if you don't... Now let's actually let's actually set it to 3. So now you can see the doors go further than they need to be. Like if you have limits enabled, and then you set your upper limit to the current position that's loaded in, like the closed position, they don't move. See that? Oh, what? They just bump back to like the position they were in. And now let's actually put the doors back. So yeah, now we know what the doors look like in a closed position. Wait, what? I was not expecting this to happen. Wait. All right, there we go. Okay. Like if you set the limits to for these two, like so if you set the upper limit to the closed position, if you try to make the doors keep going down, like I want to set this to 4, the doors, they won't budge. But if you uncheck that, now the doors are like that, but that just bumps the doors back. And now let's set that back to 0. Sometimes it gets stuck, which is okay. As you can see, that one got stuck. Yeah, sometimes the doors would get stuck if the limits were like on. This happens, but to get the doors unstuck, all you literally have to do is jerk the jerk the joystick or quickly tap one of the arrow keys or the WSD keys. Like you quickly tap it and the doors will start moving again. But yeah, enough messing around. Let's get to the next part. Next you want to do is you want to move the doors into the train. Select all the door parts. Move it back in the train. Now I moved the 5 studs out, so I want to move it back in. Oh, and make sure that the door motors are also unanchored. Anchor, unanchor. For now, I'm just going to group this. We cut. And then we're going to paste it into the front at original location. I'm just going to name this doors. And you can name this whatever part you want. I'm going to name this L motors. Make sure your motors are grouped with the body, because that's what has a weld script. And you don't want to have the doors grouped with the body, because then the doors are going to get welded with the rest of the parts in the body. It grouped with body. And this part is optional. If you want, you can make the door motors invisible, which I will do. You could just select them both like this, and then set the transparency to 1. And you might want to do that if your door motors are sticking out, which in my case they are. So we set this transparent. Now you can't see them. And now we can just get the scripting, and now here's the script. We're not going to worry about the announcements or anything. That you will see in part 2. And I just changed the left door, so I'm just going to comment this out because we're not going to worry about it. Yeah, let's do this. And now you want to do script parent. Alright, so script parent. Oh no, script parent L motors. Oh, and make sure you rename the parts too, which I forgot to mention. So I'm gonna name this part 1. I think I might have named it differently in the last time I did this. I think I named it differently. I can't remember what it was, but for now I'm just gonna use part 1 and part 1. But whatever name I used in last time, then that's the name I've used in part 2 of the tutorial. But since I can't remember up the top of my head what I used last time, I'm just going to use part 1. So part prismatic constraint. There's target position and speed. We don't have to worry about speed right now. So target position, and then 0. And then we do the same thing to. Actually, we don't need the rest of this, so I'm just gonna paste that. Oh, and make sure you format the document because obviously you want the script to look nice. And when you format the document, it just makes the script look nice. And then for the door close, I'm just gonna comment this out real quick. Let me paste it. Comment this. Alright. And now for the close, you want to take the current position, which in my case is the same, but last time they were different, so I had these two numbers different. But since they're the same, I could just put them the same. And now we can test it. Now this time you want to hit play. And now let's sit in the seat. And then when we click the open, the door should open. And when we hit close, the doors will close. And it looks like it works. And that is basically it for part 1. So if you found this helpful, make sure you like the video and subscribe. And see you in the next video. And once again, part 2 is in the description. Peace.